All right, and we're off. No dying, because I can't run the show by myself.
I think I'll make it. There's an 80 upside down 80-10 or 80 what's it called? Engage as our cover photo for the day.
Upside down, son of a bitch. Can't even be the right thing.
Well, the best part is that I think that upside down one stayed up.
Really?
Yeah. It was at least. I don't know if it stayed up for just the part that it was up before you flipped it around.
You know what? I'm gonna use that as a thumbnail. I thought I changed it to one of the BuckMaster photos I took today, but oh well. That should be updated again. Ben, welcome back. As you can see, we're a man short today.
Welcome back.
I'm sure we will repeat this a few different times throughout the night, but it's it'll be a little bit of a shorter episode, but we have some interesting stuff to talk about.
Indeed. I might survive.
Maybe.
Apparently somebody's house is on fire.
Oh, that's not ideal.
Well, I mean, I just heard a fire truck go by, so that's what I assume.
Well, Ben, you can always slag on Dennis, whether he's here or not.
You can still make the jokes. I'm sure he'll watch the video later.
If only to see how much people are talking shit.
Yeah. Only to see that we actually came here and made a video. Let's be honest.
Yeah. The salt, it's real. We might give it another moment here before we can get started.
Mm-hmm. Are we flipping a coin for who goes first tonight, or what?
I have a coin here, so I guess I can just first.
I mean, I got a coin. I got a silver dollar redo.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'll be heads.
Heads? Heads.
All right. All right, then. That is a pretty silver dollar.
Yeah.
Infinite's doing the gunning right now. And yeah, 2 Peep podcast. It's a limited edition, so to speak. So last week I was off in Toronto with Dennis doing the expo, and after getting back, I hadn't been carrying my North Arm for quite some time, the Skaha 2, and I thought, well, maybe I should give some of my other knives a chance because it's basically been the front pocket knife for quite a long time. So photo where? I've been carrying my 707.
Nice.
That's been pretty much the pocket knife over the last over the last week.
You're like, I like this very light carbon fiber knife with a nice thin slicey blade. I will put this one down and I will pick up my other equally light carbon fiber thin slicey little blade.
You understand me. I don't actually have my scale on hand here. I was just going to do an impromptu measure to see what the weight was, but yeah, they're both stupid lightweight. But S35 versus 20 CV on that guy, so that is another difference, I guess.
Yeah, nice upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, there haven't been many situations where I've been happy to have the toughness of S35 comparatively to 20 CV.
Mm-hmm.
Although one of those instances where I broke the tang off of the back of the blade here, but I didn't break the tip. That's still there.
Yeah. I wonder if you would have broken the tang off if it was S35.
I don't think I would have, honestly. Yeah. With a number of falls I've had other knives go through, this one especially has been abused. The 450.
Yeah.
And it's got a little, not quite the same feel with the tang, but I've dropped this right on the flipper before. No problems. So who knows? Maybe the DLC adds an extra couple points of hardness or something.
There you go. It's like case hardening. It's holding everything together.
It's all broken to powder on the inside, but the outside shell, yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Yep.
What about you, Paul? What have you been doing?
Uh, I am also carrying a carbon fiber knife.
Oh.
I kind of spilled the beans last week with the fact that I had this photo.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Spyderco PPT, carbon fiber S90B.
Their S90 is just sweet. They need to make
Uh-huh.
more knives with it.
This knife still hasn't been sharpened.
Still, yeah.
I bought it in 2017. And
Damn.
not that I'm going to be doing a bunch of this, but like, and I heavily carried this knife for a good long while when I first got it. Like, probably the better part of a year.
Can you still shave arm hair with it, or not quite?
A little bit. It's
In
like every
spots.
other hair. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, that's not much further along than that is when I finally decided to resharpen my military with the S110. But that was after just purposefully using it for really gross cutting tasks. So
I used this as my daily driver for so long,
yeah,
and it just held up fantastically.
it's a great steel.
I think this is the knife that made me a believer in S90.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah.
And what are you guys in the chat carrying? No,
Yeah.
there's not too
Yeah.
many of us right now, but hopefully more will join. Uh, Mostly because we're talking about something
Kind of neat.
super. Yeah. Okay. So Paul and I have been kind of interested slash excited talking about this for a while. You've seen the title. It's the Buckmaster. Um, I'm not going to say it's the absolute weirdest thing that Buck's ever made, but it's up there.
It's an odd duck.
Yeah. So this came
I
about around the time that everybody was really into like hardcore outdoor survival, beat the hell out of it, Navy SEAL, whatever, knives, right?
Rambo.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what year did Rambo come out?
Uh, might have been 82.
I'm gonna have to do a quick search here.
But yeah, I was gonna make a joke. I was
1982.
laughing. There you go. I was making a joke at work yesterday about the fact that this is like the first multi-tool. Um, but I was wrong. Leatherman beat them by a year.
Nice.
Also, Swiss Army knives have existed for probably 100 years before that, but as like a dedicated like tool.
Well, as far as a American tool, right? Like
Yes,
this
very
is a
much.
pretty serious piece of hardware. Reading about how guys viewed it at the time online, like some pretty good accounts of some pretty insane work being done with these blades.
Really.
Yeah. There were some guys who swore by them and they beat the snot out of them, and they apparently were utterly fantastic. So
Like,
hollow handled knives were a thing for a very long time. And I don't mean a thing like just in existence on yeah. I mean like they were a major thing. People were way into them. I think this was part of that trend, obviously, but this was one of the few knives that I think you could expect to survive all kinds of crazy situations. And part of that was was its development history. Um,
the connection between the blade and the handle is quite strong too, compared to a lot of contemporaries at the time.
well,
Let's say.
yeah, because ultimately your options are if you want like the most solid build you can get, well, you better machine the entire thing out of one piece of steel. I know
Out
Chris
of two
Reeve did
sleeves.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't even till later.
No.
The way these guys were produced were just ultra heavy duty. Yeah,
Yeah, they like had bolt-on construction that was also epoxied over to keep that bolt in place.
that was actually one of the things I got photos of today. Was looking down into the tube. Because that's the one thing.
Looking at the tube hole.
Gotta get photos right down that. Uh, uh, I regret that already.
Demonetized.
A little bit, little bit.
I mean, I don't
So
think
the
you can get D if you're not.
reason why we're doing this video is because we actually came into contact with a couple of Buckmasters in person, and it sparked a lot of conversation. Originally, and I don't know if we won't say the name of her name
No,
on
I
the
don't do that.
stream, but she came in asking for information about these knives she had acquired through various means, and we didn't really know anything at the time either. So it started a little bit of a hunt for information.
Just a
Um,
quick shout out to Alex Explosion in chat. What is up?
hey man, how's it going?
Yeah, these knives were her husband's,
Yes.
and he had passed, and she was asking about information about them.
Yeah. That actually came to us learning about a website actually that had a
Yes.
generous amount of information. I think I forget exactly how I came across it. Whether it was because I was looking up images to help try and date the knife and then found the website through a link that way, or whether I found a link to it through Blade forums, I honestly don't remember anymore. But there is a wonderful website. Uh,
Funnily enough, I was doing Google searches yesterday, and while I was looking, you were talking about sending me the link, and I
yeah,
literally looked up and I was like, "Oh, this is a great resource. I wonder if this is the link that Joe is going to send me." And then it showed up, and I was like, "Yeah, that's the one. That's perfect."
nice. It's the survivalknife184.com. This is a private. It's a apparently someone has a very large private collection of these Buckmaster knives and has gone to the trouble of cataloging all of his findings. A lot of this information is also available from the Buck 184 Buckmaster's survival knife. I forget if it was a field guide book. Anyway, for $150 or so, you can buy it on Amazon.
I
Uh,
really like the Buckmaster giver, but that's a lot for a book.
yeah. I mean, if I'm sure he's already spent that kind of money on literature for it, and I mean, if you've got a collection of these things, why not? If
Of
you're a
course.
serious Buck fan, then it might be worth having. I couldn't justify it,
No.
but I know there's a lot of history also in those books as well. But this website was a very useful resource for dating these things. Before we go too far into that, though, I think I should probably throw a picture of the ones that she brought in because they're pretty neat.
Yes.
Um, I'll throw up the
Wouldn't
first picture you sent with the sheath and the yeah, yeah. So as you can see here, the two variations we managed to get a hands-on inspection of were uh, the the two major variations that people are aware of are where the information is stamped into the tang, uh, and the other is where it seems to be forged. The forged one is the knife with the edge down here, and you can see Buckmaster. It has a little bit of a rough sort of texture by it, like it was drop forged into place.
Yeah. It reminds me of like tool handles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I dig it.
Certain old crescent wrenches come to mind. Uh, CPM looks like a Gil Hibben. See, that's funny because um, there was a lot of knives around that time that used that same sort of saw back notch making pattern.
Yep.
Um,
Rambo
the
was very popular.
yes. Now the Rambo grooves in particular, without getting too far off into a tangent, was initially done to make the knife pop more on screen, more so than any utilitarian aspect.
Yeah.
Um, although I believe later iterations, and in fact, the custom knives that were made for the filming production were very functional. The later versions and the production versions were not particularly functional as saw teeth.
Yeah.
Also interesting to note, the both of the Buckmasters have a serrated not even
Tip.
swedge. This is a real edge just on the reverse, a fully serrated reverse edge at the tip. Then there's the saw, the alternating cut saw behind it. Both of these models share those features, which is really interesting to see.
You can just barely make out the fact that those teeth are offset from each other, that
Yeah,
they actually would cut notches and stuff like that.
it is a very slight offset from each other. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is why I don't think this was stamped or fine blanked. But well, we'll get to that again later too. Um, do we know that the blade steel that these guys were using? I feel like I
It's
came
saying
across
stainless steel
stainless. Yeah, so
from what I can see.
I'm willing to bet 420 high carbon if I were
I
to.
mean, yeah, that's. kind of what they were using at the time, right? I mean,
Yeah,
still to this day, but
yeah. But
have
with the
they made the conversion? Because weren't they using 440C at one point, and
right
then
up and
420?
yeah, I forget exactly when they made that switch with their Buck 110s and
Yeah,
others. But I want to say it was prior to 84. I want to say it was earlier.
that's fair.
Let us know in the
Um,
comments. Yeah,
even Blade HQ labels it just stainless steel, and they're usually pretty hype on getting that information if you can get it.
they try to be fairly open stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
this thing weighs, I think, actually more than a Trailmaster.
I wouldn't be terribly surprised. I didn't see
One
any.
pound nine.
Okay, 1 pound 9. Hey. Yeah,
Yeah, 1 9 ounces.
that's kind of heavy.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what. Um, 25 ounces overall.
yeah, yeah, it's up there. Yeah, Ben. These are some pretty cool knives and old school, gonna last forever, dude. Dude. So part of the development history for these guys is that they were originally made to withstand being used as an anchor, as a
Like a
grappling
boat
hook.
anchor.
Well, so part of the mythos with this was that if you're doing literal wet work as a
Yeah,
in the
seal.
military, think like the Navy SEAL kind of thing. Part of that might be that you're floating just off the coast somewhere, waiting for your clearance to be able to go on land, maybe waiting for it to get dark enough where you're not spotted. And if you're just going to be sitting there for a long period of time, you don't want to be swept away by any current, right?
Yeah,
So this knife would be heavy enough with a line long enough you could drop it down, and with that
hold
heavy
yourself in
crossguard,
place.
it would hold you in place to a degree.
That's amazing.
Yeah, there was also talk of using this as a grappling hook. Probably not something you'd throw up to a place, but you could, and I've heard of people doing that. But also being able to again anchor it in place and then rappel down to a location. Um,
If you do that, you don't get your knife back. At least
yeah,
if you go to it, you get it back.
the idea being that if you needed to go back up in a scramble, it's not going to
Mm.
come loose. Uh, and on that note, these I didn't get a photo unfortunately, but these spikes are actually removable just by pressing the knurling. You can
Unthreading.
unthread them. So if you needed them out of the way uh, for whatever reason, as if it wouldn't be immediately more usable as a knife, but you know what I mean. Uh,
I actually was messing around with that a little bit, and I found that as if you remove the rear spike, the
yeah,
front spike acts almost like an S guard on like a big old Bowie,
yeah,
and I don't like it, especially in for the guys that it was intended for, like you're saying, seals and shit like that.
yeah,
It's a little bit of knuckle protection is not a bad thing.
a little bit crazy, just a little bit crazy. Um, So this knife actually had a pretty long production history. I think the final issue was 95.
The,
You know what?
the, the last ones that were made, I think they
Yeah.
were discoed in the early 2000s,
Oh, okay, fair enough. Um,
but they might have just been sitting on batch and realizing that they weren't going to sell anymore, so they just
just quietly killed it off. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. By the time the 2000s rolled around, this what didn't have the same hype that it would have had in the 80s.
yeah. And I do want to just again talk about the survivalknife184.com website because again, fantastic resource. As far as the index here, we have production knife variations, blade markings, handle variations, compass info. Like there's a ton of information for this stuff.
Yep.
But in particular, if we follow that top link, production knife variations, there's a lot here.
Dude, there's a Damascus version of this knife out in the world. Like,
Yeah, this knife was a big deal for a long time.
yeah.
Um, so if we're going by these blocks, every time there was a variation or a change. So there are some, it says listing 31, so there are at least 31 different production variations of this knife. Um, it looks like, from what they're saying here, 1995 plus final issue black oxide finish. So this is listed to 95, but they may have produced it up
No,
until,
I think this is start to finish. It started in '95 and went to the end of production.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Because they even say here, forged blade, a total of 16,474 black oxide Buckmaster blade knivers were made between 87 and 99. The
yeah.
total with the left side front teeth is unknown, but is considered the rarest of the later issued knives. Okay, interesting. But again, uh, it existed for a long time, over nearing 20 years worth of production, which is a long time for any knife to be made.
This came out the year after I was born.
Yeah, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
No, like exactly. I was born in
Yeah,
'83.
it's just cool.
Nutty.
So these things were built to be tough as nails. They came with a few features hidden away in the handle. Uh, let's see. I had a quick photo here. I didn't take apart the bundle to
No,
show what was inside that bundle. I wanted to keep it all together just in case. But I know that there's a little bit of sandpaper on the outside to act as a striker for some matches that you can see the head of clearly here. There's some fish hooks, which I did actually take some pictures of.
you got to be
Uh,
careful. Things.
you do need to be careful with those. They're pointy little bastards.
Yeah,
But they're nice little fish hooks actually. I was kind of
yeah.
surprised. Um, but everything, all the knurling on the and every part that is knurled is very deeply done. The threading was nice and clean despite the age and the abuse. One of the knives we know had just the absolute tar kicked out of it. The other
Yeah.
one was kept in mostly nice condition, which is kind of funny to see. But
Well, I mean, if you got two, you might as well use one.
oh yeah, 100%. I noticed that rubber O-rings also provided a really good seal on both of them, even after all these years. Uh,
Absolutely.
I don't know whether they had been replaced from the original, but they looked old. But
They were
yeah,
well maintained, though. Yeah.
um,
Um. So
so
funny story.
oh, yeah, go for it.
We were talking quickly about those fish hooks. Um, one of the two knives only had the fish hooks left from that little packet that was in the butt end, and I was looking for certain aspects on this knife because it helps date it. There's certain variations that have a compass built into the butt end, like the old Rambo knives and things like that. So in opening the butt end of one of the knives and taking a gander inside, I dropped all the hooks. And I was concerned that I was going to leave fish hooks for somebody to either step on or get caught in their finger looking for something at work. And then I realized after finding one of them that the other two were actually lodged in the lip of my pocket. And I almost stabbed myself in the hand reaching into my pocket for something.
So the moral of the story is don't drop fish hooks.
Be careful where your fish hooks are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
They got barbs, man. I don't want to deal with that shit. Ugh.
Getting that stuck in you can't be fun.
No. You got to
It,
push it through. I don't like it.
ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
Uh,
Makes me feel things.
blah, blah.
That feeling.
Yeah.
That one right there.
Anyhow, very getting into the dating for these particular knives. Two things stood out. It was mostly the stamping for me.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of helped with this. I
Yep.
think. Oh, did we get another? These two photos might actually be better to illustrate this. The ones you got on the stumps. So on one of these, what inevitably ended up being the earlier version has a stamp that says Buck 184 USA patent pending. The other one has a BuckMaster stamp that was forged into it. And
Yep.
then on the reverse, we have a blank blade for the patent pending version. And then for the forged guy, we have the model number 184 US patent.
And then the patent number. Yeah.
Yeah. So taking that information, then we went to the website here, and we were able to find that information. As far as I can tell, the version the earlier of the two seems to be this Open 7 variation here.
Open 7.
I'm pretty sure from the
Yes.
production runs. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's just the
With the open 4.
The open four?
Yeah, if you go back down to that 7
Yeah.
and you click on the number 2 on the right hand side,
Yes.
it'll bring you to the stamp that's on the same knife that we took pictures of.
Yes. Yes, there you are.
Yeah, takes you right to it.
And it also gives you dates. It tells you how
Quantities.
many were made. So that's pretty cool information. And it's such to the point where, like, yeah, if you had the Buck 184 USA, this was the first issues used between November 84 and July 85. So this was the very first run of 12K. Then there was 1,000 made with patent pending on the reverse. Then there was the variant that our friend brought along for us to check out.
Yeah,
So this is the earlier of the two. By no means the first, but it was within the first. Well, it was within this 13,008 run. Was
I was
when
going to
that.
say it's within the first year or so of start of
Yes,
production.
yes, within the first start. But that kind of shows you how many knives Buck had the capacity to make even back then, because
Yeah,
there's 12K for the initial run, like flat out. That was the first production run that they did, not
yeah.
prototypes or anything.
They probably produced 12,000 and then put them out on the market, right?
Then they marked 1,000 with that had the 1,000 more, I should say, that had the Buck 184 on one side and then the patent pending on the reverse.
Yeah.
Then they moved all the stamping to one side, probably to speed up production a little
I
bit.
was gonna say they realized, oh, we don't have to flop these over. Let's do that.
Yeah. So the next time we see a
Just
familiar
a
marking, oh,
quick shout out to Dick Richards. Hello,
hey Nick,
hello. What are you carrying?
and the next time we see a familiar stamping isn't until the BuckMaster Forge blades, which start appearing in '87 and run until '97.
Yeah,
Um, and that's the type you have here, the 5A 5B. So that's cool as hell. First of all, um, one that
so
they were popular enough that they decided to start doing forged stampings. Uh, anyhow, yeah,
yeah, I I really like this look with that forge stamping. Like I was saying before, it's kind of got a tool like a box end wrench kind of vibe to it.
yeah,
It's also got kind of the classic cool of like the 119, the 120, things like that. They're
yeah.
classics. The fuller end of the blade.
That checkered, that knurling in the handles. I really love it. Like, it's such a simple thing to do on a lathe, but
Yeah.
damn it, if it isn't such a nice texture in hand. And here's the thing: I don't think that texture's really changed all that much over the years since it's while it was used.
There was two variations. There was an early one that was only used for a very short time,
Of
and
the
then they
checkering.
switched to that.
Ah,
Yeah,
interesting. See, we can see that if
wider.
we go to the handle variations here.
Yep, you sure can.
Yeah, so there's a knurling difference here. That's interesting. That's pretty cool.
Um, Dick Richards saying he's carrying the Jumpmaster 2 for the last 2 days, so that's neat.
Huh. Somewhat topical.
Yep.
Very cool. Nice. Uh, just gonna get a couple of these guys sitting down here, but
So you were saying that the second knife ranged from like 87 to what 97, something like that.
87 to 97 is what the forged blades were running apparently.
I think I was able to actually narrow it down even tighter than that.
Interesting. Okay, so how'd
Yeah.
you do that?
So if you go back to, I don't even know what page it is. It's the page that has all the different variations, 12,000 of this and 18,000 of that.
These guys here, the
Yeah,
okay, so now we're looking for the second design. Okay.
and if you scroll down to the 22nd um, option,
Okay.
yes, I said 22nd. That's a word.
I just chose to.
Yeah, that's
No.
fair.
Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at the
Um,
22nd row here.
yeah, and if you look at the fact that it's a silver bead blast, it's still
Yep.
got the thick butt cap on it because there's variations in the thickness of that butt end.
Mm-hmm.
It's still got the long pins. Doesn't come with compass. Has round front teeth that are on the right side of the knife.
Hmm.
Everything dials
Okay.
this into being because the next one down, it's got a slight it's black oxide, so that one's different.
Right.
And I think the next one down, there you start to get things start to fall apart. It's the thin butt cap on 24.
Yeah, because I see the spikes and pommel comparison early to late length here from
Yeah,
two variations later. So those wow, those change significantly between times.
absolutely.
Crazy. So from the best guess, it sure seems to be this Type 22
Yeah, and I
somewhere in
think
this run of 31,570. I can't believe they produced that many. That is
dude,
insane. Between 87, and this is the thing. Like, if you look at the type above it, they had other types being made in the same time period.
they had two different factories. They had the was it Ohio or Idaho? I forget
Oh,
where they're
I
at.
don't remember
But
offhand.
they also had a factory in California. And there's actual like variation in between like those two
Wow,
factories that they were producing at the time.
that's wild. That is absolutely
Yeah.
buck wild.
So yeah, I think you could dial this into somewhere between 87 and 91 as far as
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to think. That's pretty cool.
indeed.
Anyway, resources for knife history like this don't exist like this. Not in this kind of format. Not regularly.
No. This kind of reminds me, is it Hattori Han is it not Hattori Hanzo, that's fucking Kill Bill. Um sorry,
I
what's
know.
that website with all the Damascus and all the San Mai?
Oh, the Hattori collector.
Yes. Okay. So Hattori was in there, just not Hanzo.
You're not entirely silly. You're just a little silly. Oh, sorry. It is just HattoriCollector.com,
Yeah.
which I think we may have featured on the channel before,
We
but is
absolutely have.
definitely worth of honestly. We're coming up on we're 10 to 8 now. We could finish off with just a brief look at Hattori. Um,
I think before we do that, we should show off the Damascus
yeah, we should.
BuckMaster because it's ridiculous. They also made a miniature, and
Oh,
it's just a
yeah.
wee.
Uh, let's look at the Wilson miniature first. So, yeah, the thing was small. 2 and
Yeah.
7/8 inch blade. Man, that's pretty ridiculous. To give you a sense of scale, that's smaller than this guy. Like this is just about a 3 inch blade, I believe.
2.7. Oh, Jesus Christ! It's like my that's like my Fox Tur as
Yeah,
far as blade length.
yeah,
I
that's
don't think you
cute.
could even get your whole hand on it.
No, you'd maybe get like 2 finger grip if you're
Yeah.
lucky. With those spikes, don't pierce your fingernail first. But it's
Come
a
on,
cool
they
little thing.
I'm sure.
Now the other, in my opinion, more interesting variation on the Buckmaster, yeah, is the Buck Custom Shop Damascus iteration.
Mm-hmm. And they went with that black oxide finish for the handle, which I don't think is the wrong choice here. Is that Raindrop Damascus? It's hard to tell.
El Cajon? 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 I'm butchering this. El Cajon Bay Damascus. Prototype knife marked Buck Custom Triple X. So
Triple.
this was a oh, what is that name? Can you tell me why this name's familiar? Leroy Remmer? There's
Nope.
something there. Anyway,
He's a knife designer for Buck, so
evidently,
or a knife maker.
thing's
I'm sorry.
wicked.
I apologize. Not a knife maker, a master knife maker.
Produced it very limited run, it seems, all for the same guy.
What? Some
Damn, that's
guy just
cool.
like, I want Damascus ones. Give me those. Oh, they have silver ones too. I
Yep.
think I might like that better.
I don't know. I think I like the black. I like the
Fuck.
pattern on the blade on the ones that are black. I don't know that I like the black handles more. I think the silver handles look better, but I think I like the blades that are on the black
I was
ones
gonna say I want those blades on the other handles.
more. Yeah, can you tell we're picky? Uh,
Yeah. Hey
anyway.
man, they're bolted on. You can do it.
Oh yeah, I didn't actually show that photo. The attachment and what made these guys so solid on the inside of the handle. They use some serious two-part epoxy here. So keep in mind, these knives are like what 30, like over 30 years old at this point. These particular ones, I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
And
91 latest.
and these are pictures of the one that was just beat to hell, which I think was the later production model.
Yeah,
Was it?
yeah, with the stamp on it.
Yeah.
Maybe as late as 91
Yeah.
at the late end. Is that a
But even
thing?
so, sitting in 2022 and this knife made in 91. Yeah. Yeah. I'm very pleased to see that the seal on that seems to be.
Are you at all surprised that Dick Richards also owns one of these?
No, it seems pretty on brand.
Yeah,
That's awesome though,
hell yeah,
Dick.
man.
That's wicked. Yeah, these guys are just wild. And it's the type of thing that I don't know that you're gonna see much again in the knife world. Not to the same degree. There was a certain level of just batshit crazy, here you go, here's some bullshit,
Well,
and actually made well.
I think the
You,
problem is that all the clones that were made that were so much easier to access because they were fucking everywhere and they were like $40 because
yeah.
people are cheap.
Well, this knife wasn't
No,
cheap even at the time.
no, that's what I'm saying. When you
Yeah.
compare it to a knife that you could get for $40 that looks the same part, but then you swing it at something and the blade goes flying off behind you. Ask me how I know. I
Yeah.
thankfully didn't hit anybody, but it went flying between like two friends that were walking in opposite directions. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
that's less than I know.
great. I was hacking away at a piece of firewood, just seeing what it would do, and not much is the answer.
Yeah. Uh, before I forget, there was actually one follow up to the BuckMaster lineage, the 185. So it was the BuckMaster LT for light. I don't know. Uh,
Hey man,
this knife was made out of one solid piece of steel. It looks like there's a ridged drop forged handle to this particular guy. I'm not
okay, cool.
100% sure about that because if we look at these variations here that are the prototypes, they seem to be just one piece all the way through, no ribbing. Um, Later iterations bring it back though. Okay, there's again tons of different variations of these things available. There's a picture of the yeah for
With the coding.
the 184 that actually ended up with the 185 stamping. Not 100% sure why.
Oh,
Uh, yeah,
are those rare?
I would imagine they're quite rare. They were made by the Bucks Custom Shop knife maker, so yeah, I'd imagine they're quite rare. Oh, here's
Yeah.
some with polished blades. 425 modified. Okay, 425M is the steel that I've actually wanted to try for a long while now because I've heard interesting things about the toughness.
Okay. What
Um,
is it?
so let me actually bring it up on the chart here because if I remember, there was actually some decent information available about it. 425M. I think the last time I saw it available in a commercial knife was I want to say that drop forged tool bar, the Essie Azula looking thing. I think that was also 425.
Mm,
Uh, but 425 modified, highly stainless steel improvement over AAISI 420. Uh, looks like it has similarities to 420HC in that actually a lot of its composition is very similar, except there's way more molybdenum in
Okay.
the M. There's also a slightly there's a greater range for carbon within 425M, but you can also have slightly less. So the tolerances for it seem to be a little bit wider.
Okay.
Um, Also more
And what?
chromium. So generally speaking, we should. Oh, but not. But there's 0.3% vanadium in HC. In M, there's only zero point 0.1. So you're not going to get the edge holding. But theoretically, you should get slightly better toughness if I'm reading this correctly.
Sounds
Um,
like it.
yeah, and to use 425M, I wonder if that may have been a similar steel that they used in the other Buckmaster, the 184,
Oh, yeah.
because
That'd
they
be that'd be interesting to know.
might have to delve a little bit deeper into the site to see if he gives any information on it. Because most of the stuff isn't labeled. It's got patent information, but there's not a lot else. Anyway, so there was a very brief run of knives that were doing a
We
similar
touched
thing.
on it when we were talking about it privately before we started the show. These kind of look like dive knives.
Yeah.
And if we were talking before about Navy SEALs using this thing, that kind of makes sense as far as why you would release something like this to be like, look, you're not using it as an anchor. I get it. Let's do these other things with it.
What's funny is it seems they were only made for 3 years, from
Hmm.
'86 to '89.
So maybe they
6,038 of this of the 185 Buckmaster LT. I wonder if there were other variations made within that. Anyway, doesn't I guess it doesn't matter too much now. But this version with the handle holes, apparently there's only around 6,000 of those. I
I
now
think Dick Richards is saying that he has a clone of this knife. Is that what I'm reading correctly?
oh, let me take a quick look here.
Yeah, a clone of the Buck 184. He was talking about the grappling hook and stuff like that. But this thing isn't a buck knife
Oh,
unless
Stainless
it's
Taiwan.
stainless Taiwan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because there were other copies made. Some of them were, I wouldn't even call them clones. They just took the same idea and they copied most of what was going on, but they weren't trying to pretend to be bucks. They were never
Yeah,
labeled as bucks. Um,
I
which at the
imagine companies like United Cutlery would have been producing something that looked like this.
oh, almost
Both of
guaranteed.
them. Yeah.
Yeah. So
This
yeah,
kind of plays by the rule of cool, if I'm being honest.
dude, and I think that there's a reason why only 6,000 of the 185s were made. They
Yeah.
probably I don't know whether they were limited production or they just didn't sell as well because they're just not as cool. The handle definitely added a lot with the 184. Um,
Yeah.
and if it were me personally, sure, I might prefer to use the 185, but I'd want the 184 in the
I was gonna
collection.
say if I was gonna buy one, I'd want the 184th to actually just have in the collection because
Yeah.
the problem is these knives are worth a lot.
Um. Yeah.
They certainly can be at the very least, right?
I I actually had looked at ye old auction sites to try and determine a value for mint or near mint condition.
Yep.
Um, I forget exactly what I had seen. I just remember being like shocked by the dollar value.
When the lady came in to lend us these again, she had mentioned something about $500 for one and $900 for the other is what she was looking at potentially. And I don't know if that was information that she'd gotten from us originally, or if she had since, with the information that she had continued on and
Yeah,
found
I
information.
I think more the latter because I seem to recall at the time saying like I have a rough idea what these could be worth, but as far as going rates at the time I didn't. But to
Yeah.
give you an idea, on Amazon or Amazon, sorry, on eBay right now, there's a black coated version, uh, near mint, going for 1,300.
Okay.
1,300 American, for the record.
Okay.
Shipping from Japan. So yeah, as far as what these things would go for, absolutely depends on the condition of the box, any peripherals that would have came with it, but all obviously the condition of the knife itself.
Yeah.
But
The
this is definitely a case of things exploding in value, even years
yeah.
after they've been discontinued.
Well, and I think too, if you what you're saying is true about guys going out and beating theirs up in the woods, there's probably not a lot of them that are in good shape.
Yeah.
So like
The
we had
stuff
the picture of the two of them, and one of them was obviously used, but the other one is in near mint. I would
it's
call
like damn near perfect condition.
it. Yeah.
Obviously, some slight wear from storage, but like you can see this Buckmaster with the stamped blade, or stamped with the forged logos, clearly has been used to cut a ton of stuff. There's damage to the edge. The serrations look clearly used and partially resharpened. The hooks look like the spikes even look like they've been used for stuff a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But then if you look at the stamped variation, it's basically a very slight amount of discoloration on the blade, and that's about it. Slight amounts of wear marks from going in and out of the sheath. Yeah, but a knife is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. Uh,
Yeah.
Cold steel is a great example of this, especially lately. But once again, I gotta shout out the this website, the Survival Knife 184. Even if you're just partially curious in this knife, I do recommend going through and reading just to see what all the information's like, because what you're looking at. Oh, what was it? It's over 20 years worth of production time for these knives, and there's a lot that changed during that time, and there's a lot of information out there about them. The gentleman who owns the website, I'm not sure if he's going to want to be called out by name necessarily, but he's credited here on the website if you'd like to go check it out. Um, but like just super cool. And once again, this type of information is not generally available to public consumption.
I forgot about the friggin' bayonet mounted one. Like, what
Oh
the hell?
yeah, again, it's just some cool shit. Home Security by Buck and Mossberg. That is fantastic. So yes, there were some variations that had bayonet lungs.
Yep. That's delightful. It's absurd.
It is. It's fantastic though. Uh, well, I guess that was pretty much all we wanted to talk about tonight. Just some crazy shit from the knife world.
Absolutely.
A lot of
It's
history.
kind of a blast from the past, and it's not very often that you get an opportunity to play with something like this. You know what I mean?
No.
To the amount of trust that we were shown by being lent these, not once but twice actually in the last. It's probably been 4 years because it was,
It's been a
or I
while.
guess 2019, maybe 3 years.
I
It
was
was
gonna say closer to three probably, but yeah.
pre-pandemic and post, or I guess mid. You know,
A topic for another video.
yes. um,
But we do
but
seriously appreciate the gesture and the thoughtfulness of
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. Also, going outside and taking pictures with two, not one, but two 7.5-inch combat knives is not a comfortable experience.
We appreciate your sacrifice, Paul.
Yeah. I was just waiting for the sirens, man. Like,
Officer, there's a guy crouched over a stump with a bunch of big ass knives.
yeah, they got spikes on them and shit.
Yep. Oh, anyway, we all know this wasn't the first time Buck has done some weird shit, and we know it wasn't the last time they had done some weird shit.
I was gonna say it won't be the last.
I'm yeah, as we speak,
Better
as
not
we
be.
speak. uh, yeah, I guess that's all I really wanted to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Unless Paul's got anything last minute to bring up, I think we can probably round it out.
Yeah, I was just gonna start thanking folks.
Let's do it
You
up.
know, like thank you to the Cutting Edge. I know you didn't necessarily have a part in this specific knife conversation, but we appreciate the hell out of you. So thank you to the lady again that lent us these to take a look at and talk to you guys about. We really appreciate all the trust and everything else.
Absolutely.
Thank you to our patrons on Patreon, I guess is the more correct vernacular there. Um, you know, we have talked in the past about doing something, and day by day, we're getting closer and closer to Christmas 2023. And yeah, so that's coming up. You're welcome.
It sure is. Oh
Cool.
god.
Also, thank you to all of the people that follow us on Instagram, even though I don't post anything like an asshole. I do appreciate you. Um, one day I will get back to doing that. I'm sure of it.
We can almost guarantee it.
Um, I mean,
Let's
if
not get ahead
history,
of ourselves.
yeah.
It's all good.
But yeah, that's basically it for me.
All right. I think that's about that. All the important thank yous have been said, including thank you for joining us, dear viewer. We do this because it's fun to hang out, and honestly, it's not every day we get to talk about such cool shit, even in the knife world, with this cool stuff happening all the time.
Yeah,
Uh, nice to be able to say, yeah, this thing actually existed. It wasn't just a giant hoax played up by Buck and a couple collectors. It actually did exist,
yeah.
and it was wild. Um, so thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Hopefully, we'll have Dennis with us next. Well, we'll have Dennis with us next time.
Yeah. Unless he gets stuck in Mexico. That seems unlikely.
Oh, well, you said it, so
It's my fault then.
that's how it works, right? Dennis Pfeifers has not joined us. I am the Iron Joe.
XL.ca.
Thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Have a good night, guys.